Part 1. The Friendship. The movie begins in the 255 BC Qin dynasty, during the Warring States period in ancient China. A cart carrying a group of child slaves stops when they see General Uki, one of the 6 great generals of the Qin kingdom, marching with his soldiers. A young slave named Xin is astonished to see the general. Xin admires the general from afar in captivity. Later on, Xin is sold to a small-time villager, Ritin, where he meets Hugh, another slave. Xin is unruly and not good with household work. He vows to escape slavery, but Hugh tells him that it is not possible since he cannot break the social hierarchy except with a sword, implying that he must become a good soldier. Hugh and Xin go to a forest to practice swordsmanship. Hugh tells Xin that if he practices well, he will one day become a great general. With that in mind, the two begin practicing every day until they are grown men. As grown-ups, both Xin and Hugh have become quite masterful. They fight fiercely and show great artistry in their moves with the sword. In a bout while practicing, an elderly man watches them fight. They stop fighting, and Hugh pays his respects to the gentleman. However, Xin is not impressed with him, as he lost the bout to Hugh due to the distraction he created. Later that day, the gentleman comes to their village and introduces himself as Lord Shobunkan, a chancellor of the king. Lord Shobunkan asks Hugh to go with him to serve the king. Hugh is both excited and reluctant. He pleads that Xin should also go with him, but the lord declines to do so. Hugh asks for a day to think about it. He discusses this with Xin and tells him that he will leave, and that one day Xin will also find a way to become a great general. They go to the hills for one final bout before Hugh leaves for the capital. During the bout, Hugh tells Xin to continue practicing, for they are bound to meet again and achieve greatness. Xin continues his practice religiously every day. From swordsmanship to heavy lifting, Xin is persistent and hopeful. There is one particular move that he practices continuously to master, a high jump with the sword to pierce the head of an opponent. Finally, after much practice, he masters the move. Part 2. The Mystery of Hugh's Death. One night, when Xin is asleep, he hears noises that wake him up. He opens the door of his room to find a fatally injured Hugh in a royal robe. Hugh tells him that the king's brother staged a mutiny at the palace, and his men would be looking for him. Hugh gives Xin a map and asks him to find the location where he will get his answers. Hugh dies moments later, and Xin leaves the village immediately. Afterwards, a group of soldiers and an assassin find Hugh's body at Ritin's house. They quickly conclude that it is not the king, implying that Hugh was mistakenly killed instead of the king. General Saji, who is pursuing the king, orders his soldiers to kill the villages and burn their homes. On his way to the location, Xin encounters a few thugs who want his sword. He knocks down the first thug with a single blow. Then he beats the rest of the gang and leaves for the location. Back in the king's palace, it is reported that the new king's soldiers mistakenly killed Hugh instead of King Aizei. Sekyu, Aizei's younger brother, who has taken the throne after the coup, says that he does not want to kill a king or his brother, but rather the criminal Aizei. In the next scene, Xin reaches the location and finds a hut. Getting into it, he finds a person with an acute resemblance to Hugh. He is surprised at first and takes him for Hugh. However, before things get clear, an assassin attacks them. Xin is confused when the assassin calls the person King of Qin, Aizei. The assassin is extremely strong and with 2 moves, throws both Aizei and Xin to the ground. The assassin reveals to Xin that Hugh was a good warrior and a double for Aizei. He killed Hugh, thinking he was Aizei. The assassin fights Aizei and beats him severely. Xin jumps to fight the assassin. However, he is too weak to subdue him. The assassin mocks Xin's fighting skills, and without drawing his sword, toys with him. By thinking back on Hugh and how the assassin wrongfully killed him, Xin finds inspiration to carry on the fight. He attacks the assassin with all his might, and a fierce sword fight erupts between them. Using the one technique that he has recently mastered, Xin jumps high, strikes the assassin, and cuts him through his left side. Aizei then cuts the throat of the injured assassin and kills him. Aizei and Xin see that the soldiers are near and have set fire to Xin's village. Karyutin, a small-time thief, joins them with the prospect of getting a reward from Aizei once he gets his throne back. Through their escape, Aizei tells Xin the story of how Hugh was recruited to be his double. Aizei emphasizes that Hugh knew the risk and volunteered for the job. Xin finally reconciles with Aizei and joins him in his quest to get back his throne. In the palace, Sekyu hears that Aizei has escaped and gets frustrated. He extrapolates that Lord Shobunkan would help Aizei, and if he could get him killed, perhaps capturing Aizei would become easier. General Uki enters the court and presents the king with a severed head, supposedly of Shobunkan. In return, he asks for Shobunkan's domain. The young king agrees and the general leaves the court. With Shobunkan supposedly gone, though the court is skeptical, Sekyu is relieved. He is delighted that at least General Uki is not against him. On their way to the Qin summer resort, close to the mountain tribe's domain, Aize, Shin, and Karyutin come under attack by an assassin. Shin deflects the assassin's darts. A brutal fight erupts between the assassin and Shin. The assassin appears masterful in martial arts and overpowers Shin in the beginning with his trickery. Shin realizes that he has to get closer to him in order to subdue him. Shin focuses on the assassin's moves and stays put when he attacks. He swings his sword and throws the assassin away. Shin gets closer and throws blow after blow. The assassin gets away and shoots darts at Shin. He moves his blade and cuts the assassin's throat. However, he notices that a poisonous dart hit him in the shoulder. Shin collapses. Part 3. The Mountain Tribes. Shin wakes up in the summer resort, treated by Karyutin. Shin observes that the resort is well maintained, implying that someone must have been taking care of it. Later, a group of soldiers comes to the resort. It appears to be Lord Shobunkun's army that was supposed to come to Aize's rescue. At the palace, Seikyu inspects his 80,000-strong army. He then demonstrates his hatred towards meritocracy and asks his executioner to crush the skull of Tan, an officer of low birth who rose through the ranks. With that demonstration, he declares his hatred towards Aize, whom he considers a lowborn as well. He calls his soldiers born of nobility and praises them for their loyalty. Aize proposes that they go to the mountain tribes to seek their assistance. Aize says that the tribes were the Qin dynasty's allies 500 years ago, but things went sour between them in the past 400 years. He says that without their help, it is practically impossible to fight Seikyu's armies. Aize, Shin, and their band of soldiers march towards the mountain tribes. The tribesmen ambush Aize and his band as they are marching through a narrow valley, tie them up, and take them to their chieftain. At the court of the chieftain, Aize requests the support of the chieftain in return for normalizing the relationship between the Qin dynasty and the mountain tribes. The chieftain is reluctant and says that she would rather kill Aize and his soldiers to settle old scores. However, in a passionate speech, Aize apologizes for the crimes of his kingdom and proposes his vision of unifying the whole of China. The sentiment at the court, however, is to kill all of Aize's soldiers. Shin, in a most acrobatic move, releases himself but throws away the sword. He besieges the chieftain to help Aize and get their rewards. At last, the chieftain yields and accepts to help Aize get his throne back. Aize and the chieftain devise a plan to go to the capital, all in the mountain tribe's disguise, offering their support to King Seikyu. The actual plan, however, is to get inside the palace and kill Seikyu. Yutanwa, the chieftain, then calls for the assembly of all armies from the mountains. The whole court then chants war cries. They reach the walled city of the capital with 3,000 soldiers. They propose an audience with the king for their support of his cause. The king's court agrees to meet the tribesmen, for he needs their support. The king's chancellor allows only 50 of them to enter the walled city. Yutanwa and Ise agree, and they enter the walled city with a select group of 50 soldiers, including Shin. Part 4. The Battle for a Vision. A bloody fight ensues once the gate is opened. Ise kills the first soldier, and the fight begins. They quickly kill a few soldiers at the gate. Ise divides his band into groups of 40 and 10. The group of 10 is led by Shin. They are tasked with entering the palace through a passageway and killing Seikyu. Ise, Yutanwa, Shobunkun, and others would march from the front towards the palace. As Ise enters the courtyard, Seikyu's swordsmen and archers surround him. When the tribesmen launch their attack, a shower of arrows put most of them down. General Saji and his soldiers stop Shin and his team in the hallway. When Saji finds that Ise is not there, he leaves and orders his soldiers to kill every one of them. Back in the courtyard, Ise is outnumbered but has high morale. He decides to stay and fight. A bloody fight begins between the two forces. The tribesmen prove handy and skilled. They kill royal soldiers one by one, giving them no chance to strike. The chancellor asks for more soldiers and goes back to the court. In the passageway, Shin displays his skill with the swords and cuts through enemies here and there. Shin's group appears to be winning the fights when a monster enters. The monster subdues Shin's group one by one. It seems that killing the monster is impossible. Shin then jumps and kicks the monster down. The others then hold the monster and he cuts his throat. Ise and his group get close to the court and fight their way up the stairs. However, they are tired and running low on morale as well. Outnumbered, Ise swings his sword and kills numerous soldiers. Seikyu, sure of his victory, is amused by his courtiers when Shin and his band enter the court itself. Everyone is surprised to see them. Seikyu asks Saji to crush them. With a quick swing of his sword, Saji kills a few tribesmen. Shin attacks Saji. Back in the yard, Yutanwa is surrounded by royal guards, and she swings her sword, injuring and killing them. She is masterful, and with brilliant moves, she kills scores of enemies. In the court, a bloody and brutal combat begins between Shin and Saji. Saji is strong and more experienced. He toys with Shin in the beginning. Shin is resilient and doesn't give up, though. He is, however, no match for Saji. When Saji badly injures Shin's comrade, he bursts into anger and attacks Saji violently, but to no gain. Saji is arrogant and strong. He mocks Shin for his dream to become a general. After being badly injured, Shin remembers Hugh and his dream. He rises and kicks Saji away. An emboldened Shin meditates on Saji's move, and when Saji attacks him, he jumps high and cuts through Saji's sword into his heart. In the yard, Aize emboldens his soldiers with a passionate talk. While fighting, he continues to give them morale. His soldiers are motivated and launch their attack again. However, they are tired and await Shin's progress. Seikyu then comes to the yard alone with a sword in his hand. Shin follows with the few of his comrades that remain. Things are confusing and chaotic. No one actually knows what to do when they see both brothers standing right in front of each other. Aize then tells Seikyu that it's a sibling issue and they should resolve it themselves. Seikyu attacks Aize and gets injured. Aize then brutalizes Seikyu for all the pain he has caused to people around him. He punches him continuously in the face. Everyone else is still. Aize pardons Seikyu. However, his army has yet to surrender. Before they attack Aize, General Uki's army arrives and surrounds the whole palace. The general himself comes forward and asks Aize what kind of king he aspires to be and what he wants to do. When Aize elaborates on his dream of uniting the whole of China, General Uki is satisfied. He tells Seikyu's army to surrender, but when they attack, the general swings his lance and kills scores of them. The battle finishes with the last Seikyu's general's death at the hands of Shin. General Uki leaves with his army, and Seikyu's army is disarmed. With Aize on the throne, a new chapter begins in the history of China. Part 5. The Verdict. Kingdom is a live-action adaptation of a Japanese manga that is designed to be melodramatic and unapologetically goofy. Its stylized combat scenes make the movie entertaining. While the movie fails to bring depth to characters and plots, it generally makes up for it with dramatic flair. Kingdom is a drama merged with silliness to take the audience on a journey through China's ancient history. The martial arts, action, and spectacle are where the movie excels. The story is pretty linear and nonsensical at times. However, that appears to be deliberate to make the whole journey relaxed and fun. This was our recap and verdict. Tell us what you liked or disliked about this movie. Let us know in the comment section what movie we should recap next. Do not forget to subscribe and turn on notifications to be notified when we upload new videos and enjoy watching.